Well, here we are again with yet another surprise lockdown special. This one is to celebrate and remember a special day in our history. This year we have apparently changed our bank holiday to Friday, May the 8th. VE Day. We remember Tuesday, May the 8th, 1945. VE Day stands for Victory in Europe Day. It was the day on which the Allied forces announced the surrender of Germany in Europe. 6 years of war that had cost the lives of millions had finally come to a close. Adolf Hitler was dead. He had committed suicide a week before, leaving Grand Admiral Dönitz to admit the defeat of a nation. And all over Europe, crowds gathered in the streets. There were throngs in Trafalgar Square, thousands in Piccadilly Circus. You couldn't move in Oxford Street, and in front of Buckingham Palace the crowds gathered and shouted and cheered for the royal family to appear. And there they were, the King and Queen and the 2 princesses, along with the man who had led the nation through its darkest hours, standing on the balcony of Buckingham Palace, waving to the crowds below. People congregated in the street. People celebrated with sit-down teas. There were parties for children and parties for older adults as well. Everybody had a great time. Everybody was waving flags and having a real knees up. And for some people, the morals of the day were temporarily on furlough. That's not my mother, by the way. 50,000 people in Piccadilly Circus waving flags. A national holiday with dancing and singing in the streets all over the country. Winston Churchill, as Prime Minister, broadcast to the nation that the war in Europe was over. King George VI spoke to the nation, paying tribute to those who had laid down their lives during the war. The royal family, including our present Queen, made 8 appearances on the balcony at Buckingham Palace, and the crowds went wild. And as she was still a young Princess Elizabeth, she and sister Princess Margaret slipped out of the palace to join the crowds. Some people started early and couldn't wait for the 8th of May. For some people, the celebrations were tinged with sorrow. Some people had lost their homes. Some people had lost their friends. Some people had lost their loved ones. And some people had lost their country. Some people had almost lost their race. Far East, the war still continued with the Japanese. There was still a 3rd flag in the axis of evil to be rooted out. And when victory came there, a new scourge haunted the world. But on VE Day, everything was celebration, knees up, and have a good time. Sometimes the health and safety rules got flouted a little, and sometimes nurses found themselves dancing with men in skirts. It won't be the same this year. We're not at war, but there is still a desperate struggle going on. And there are still casualties. And there is still a front line. Some people won't feel like celebrating. Some people won't be able to celebrate. For some people, the day has come too late. We don't have the government that led us through our darkest hours. But hopefully cometh the hour, cometh the man, and hopefully he has a team behind him that will lead us through this struggle. This year there will be no crowds in London. Trafalgar Square will not be thronged with people. There will be no crowds in any street in the country. But there is a bridge that links 1945 with 2020. The young Princess Elizabeth, who sneaked out of the palace to join the crowds, has now become our Queen, the longest reigning monarch in the history of our country. Whether you're staying quietly with friends and family at home, or whether you're home alone, do make sure that you celebrate this year's VE Day. And then let's all look forward to celebrating VC Day, the day when we finally got this coronavirus beaten as well. Celebrate, but do remember the rules. Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives. We really do want to see you all again when this is all over. Thank you and goodbye.